The consumer, they call us. We're the people that buy. While everyone else is out to sell.
Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Maritimes Watch, the Maritimes' only dedicated program looking at corruption and the misuse of public resources. Sadly, once again, we are going to talk about the shenanigans in the New Brunswick energy sector, the issue that keeps on giving in terms of corruption issues here at home. So this week, what we have is an announcement by Premier Higgs that he's going to put $20 million into small modular reactors. Yes, those same small modular reactors that we covered in episodes 5 and 6, and which are an unproven technology which no other country has been able to realize. So Russia, China, the US, Germany, nobody's been able to realize this technology, but somehow NB Power is the ones to make it all happen for Canada, if we just throw enough money at it, right? So we have a situation in which the Conservative Premier is going to give money to a company called ARC. ARC, as we discussed in the previous episodes, is a Delaware-based company. That's right, Delaware, the most murkiest of all murky jurisdictions for registering a company, is going to be receiving this, and their frontman is none other than New Brunswick's former Premier, Sean Graham. Yes, that's right, Sean Graham, famous for his conflict of interest giveaway of 70 million New Brunswick taxpayers' dollars to Atcon, a company that his father worked at. He is actually the lobbyist, spokesperson, however you want to label it, lobbyist in chief of ARC Nuclear Technology or ARC Clean Energy, whichever company name they're using currently. So ARC is going to get $20 million from the province of New Brunswick. To do what? Well, to realize this technology. Now, is that going to be sufficient? No, as we reported in previous episodes, this is going to take at least somewhere between 50 to 130 million, according to the CEO of the company, to actually make this happen. So we've thrown more money on the table. And a year after this has been announced, we see that the province is still trying to keep this funded, yet no other major private investors have come forward. So for some reason, the government of New Brunswick is putting more money into a company that in a year, which has not been able to actually get any money off of the private equity market. That's a little bit concerning. Then what we see is ARC is very much connected with the New Brunswick political elite, not only with the Liberal Party, and this includes their PR lobbyist firm, Atlantic Strategies Group, made up of Sean Graham, some former premier, senior politicians, and of course Donald Arsenault. That's right, Donald Arsenault, the conflict of interest master, who was a minister at the same time he was holding down a lobbying job for on his own file that he was working for an outside company. Right? So what we see is the usual thing. Province of New Brunswick money being thrown at projects that are connected with political insiders. Okay, these are pandemic times. Is there no other use for these funds other than, of course, to plunk it into some sort of wild scheme that may or may not pay off sometime in the future, if only they throw enough money at it? Well, I believe that there is a dire need for more funding within our health system, especially in terms of improving the capacity of the ICU units during this pandemic. Now, one of the few things that the government has actually asked for money for from the federal government is also for SMRs. So we see that both the province and the province trying to get the federal government to throw in more money into a politically elite connected project. Does this sound a bit dubious? Well, it should. Because the current Minister of Natural Resources and Energy Development, Mike Holland, has insisted categorically after we released our previous episodes he insisted to me, he called me up while I was working in East Timor and insisted that there will be no more money on the table from the province of New Brunswick. Yet what we see is this is actually one of the few things that the government seems very eager to invest in. Now, given the fact that we have Sean Graham involved in this as a Liberal, we also have the Chief of Staff of Brian Gallant, also connected with this, lobbying, both of them lobbying for ARC. We also see some former PC politicians involved. So this seems to be a project involving both the PCs and the Liberals in a joint effort to bilk the people of New Brunswick out of more millions of dollars during these terrible pandemic times. When is this going to stop? How many conflicts of interest can one little province generate in terms of these schemes that never seem to pay off, right? The group that is lobbying and doing PR for ARC, Atlantic Strategies Group, actually discussed this, and they were looking at this and saying, you know, if Brooklyn, for the famous Brooklyn car scandal that we had in fiasco, ever came back to the province, we would send him on his way. But what we see is this is not what's happening. More snake oil salesmen along the lines of Joy Scientific and the other schemes and scams that have gone on has come and convinced the province that if only they invest enough money, this will happen and this will make all of New Brunswick prosper, right? So is there any connection with the other energy things? Well, there is. What we see, of course, is these conflict of interest that arise between current and ex-political staff and these energy projects. We also saw in the past episode, looking at Irving Oil's demand to increase funds, is that the Premier weighed in on this and insisted that this was a good idea. Now, Premier Higgs is a 30-year former employee of Irving Oil. He receives a pension from Irving Oil. He benefits from Irving Oil. Therefore, anything that he weighs in on Irving Oil is a conflict of interest. There is no conflict of interest standards around the globe, except for here in New Brunswick, which would allow a beneficiary of a company to lobby for that company to increase its profit margin. It's a conflict. So we have our political elite engaging in project after project which only benefits an elect number of companies, and those companies are almost always either connected with Irving or connected with the political elites of the province. It is time to stop this. We have to stop these conflicts of interest. Thanks for watching, and do what the cup says, and we'll see you on the next episode.